Hello, 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 people, and welcome back to an episode of the USL Show. It is great to be back. We have our first playoff champions down in Tampa Bay in the Super League. We have a lot of fun stuff happening around League One. Everybody's contract has been canceled. The USL HQ has a brand new home along the way. Same for the Sun. And a whole lot more stuff to get there along the way. First things first. Alex, how are you?
Doing great. Yeah, good to be back. A lot of fun action this weekend with the championship and USL One chaos.
John, how about yourself?
I'm just kind of pondering the fact that we start our podcast with the word "the," which I think can be awkward at times. So that's kind of what I'm stewing on right now.
Like the USL show?
Hello. Yeah, it's like the Ohio State, the Miami FC.
That's 100% what I'm going for. Like there is. Don't get it twisted. That's the plan.
Good stuff.
We're not going to have our social network moment of Justin Timberlake saying "drop the."
Or I don't know if anyone's familiar with the TV show AP Bio, but Glenn Howerton rehearsing a speech for a tribute to a former professor of his. He writes that in the speech and then like realizes how weird it is and keeps saying like that. And so the USL show.
Yeah, there you go. Ryan, we already kind of heard from you, but Dr. Benji, Kid on Tim's FC. There you go. How are you, man?
Doing well. Yeah, we were talking about it a little bit pre-show, but the weather right now is just so hot across the Southeast. It's like 90 degrees. It's like the minimum temperature every time I step outside here in Charlotte.
Yeah. So did y'all see the article that came out? It's like it's too dangerous for teams to be playing in the Club World Cup because of how hot it is. I asked Famuel Kavita about that. Like he just got done with playing for playing for country in like Algeria. He's played in Puerto Rico, St. Louis, and now Birmingham. I asked him his thoughts about it. He just laughed. So, there's that.
Fair enough.
Phil, how are you?
I am good. My daughter turned 3 this past week, so it was all mermaids over here. That was my weekend. But yeah, excited to chat USL, and I'll just say I hate being right.
Oh, you called that thing, man. Like you nailed it down.
It's true. I want to give a shout out. Yeah, Jared, who today gave me beer. It is Revolver Brewing, Texas style. This is Blood and Honey beer, which check out. I did a live podcast with him on State of the Republic. Like hopped on the show, did a live recording. It's great. I told him I would drink this live on air. So here we go. If things start sounding like I'm losing my mind and I'm not here, just ignore me, mute me, and just let me go off my own little world. So
shotgun it.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
That's a good beer too. I like. That was a classic go-to back in my Texas days.
I usually like dark beers, like stouts and porters. So this is different for me. That's pleasant. I like that. All right. Speaking of pleasant, how about being the first ever Super League champions? Tampa Bay Sun win 1-0 over in-state rivals Fort Lauderdale United. It was a 100th minute goal from Flu, and it was right in front of the Tampa Bay supporters. It was awesome. The atmosphere looked amazing, a sellout crowd. So don't let anybody tell you that women's soccer won't work here because it was a sellout. And we'll get to the other news with the Sun coming up later, but this is more important to me. The Sun are your first ever playoff champions. What are just some general thoughts on the night?
Yeah, I mean, everything that you expected from the Tampa Bay Sun in this game, they accomplished. It took 120 minutes to get there, but you felt that level of control from start to finish in terms of what they do. I think for me watching this game, it was the way that they ran with their game plan and they stopped Fort Lauderdale from executing. Like you look at Jasmine Hamid and Shania Gordon, they attempt 3 dribbles across the entirety of the match. You look at Grosso and McNeil at the fullback spots, forced to play 20 long balls between them. Absolutely not how Fort Lauderdale wants to play. And so much of that owes to what Denise Schilte Brown did, setting up the 4-1-4-1 press, letting Natasha Flint and Jade Moore do their thing, that kind of number 8, number 10 types. Sydney Nacella was unbelievable.
So good.
She personally attempted 16 dribbles. Like, that's outrageous. And I thought, I mean, you saw it on the goal, right? She's beating 2 players, getting that cross across the face of goal so that Flo can get that tap in and in front of the net. Just unbelievable stuff from end to end from Tampa Bay, and they're deserving champions.
When you watch the first half for me, I think that you will see that Fort Lauderdale, I think, was the better team. That first half, they were not holding on to the ball. They were not, just gracefully going up and down the field. But what they did do is when they got their counterattacking opportunities, they went down Shania Gordon. They let her go down there and make a cross, make something happen. They missed chances that could have been 1 goal, 2 goals. The second half, both teams kind of shut up shop. There was not a lot of action going on in that second half. But the first half, while it was even, with the quality of chances that Fort Lauderdale were creating in that first half when they got them, they are probably going to feel not hard done by because they didn't do enough to create a winning chance, but they're definitely going to be kicking themselves for not taking those chances.
Yeah, I think they still got credited only 1 shot on target, despite all of that.
I think for me, what we saw was the first half, both teams kind of, I felt like, played their game. I felt like Fort Lauderdale was trying to catch Tampa Bay on the counter, which they did in like the first minute or two, where they
literally
dispossessed.
like 25 seconds in. Yeah.
Yes. Like they intercepted the ball, they get it, counterattack, create a chance. Let's go. And I'm thinking, oh God, like, is Tampa Bay not up for this? Then Tampa Bay got into what they normally do. So, like, it kind of evened out. And then the second half, you could tell that both teams wanted to win, but they just more or less just did not want to lose. But really, all of extra time until the last 5 minutes was all sun. The last 5 minutes, Fort Lauderdale sent everything they had forward. There was not a single woman left back. Everybody was going forward. But, I mean, the most of the extra time was just Tampa Bay. Like, they were really putting their authority down.
I thought that we were headed to the penalty prediction that I had of like this is going to Pens. But Sun, I think seeing it out, this is the sort of win that they've had all season, and that's why I think like these two teams being in the final, like these teams were sort of purpose built for these sort of close games. They had a lot of results like this throughout the season. Tampa Bay like seeing things out or getting that dramatic goal. And yeah, credit to Tampa Bay for hanging in there and 100 minutes, Cecily getting the job done. So it's what you just love to see a close game, one that creates some discussion and ultimately a very, very well played game of football for these two sides. And just excited for now we've got one on the board, the inaugural champions, and now we get to move on to the Super League just being a thing rather than being a new thing.
Yeah, and it's an exciting future too. Sporting Jacks is joining next season, and then beyond that, I saw Chattanooga, Indianapolis, Madison, Oakland, Palm Beach, Phoenix, and Tucson are listed as official for
those are very
2027. 2027, yeah, or beyond, but they're listed on the league's website.
Milwaukee USL somewhere in there.
Yeah. I mean,
even if only just a few of those join, it's still
Yeah.
it's an exciting time for the Super League, especially
Oakland's been very
the stadium.
Yeah, Oakland has been very upfront in their intentions. Sporting Jacks definitely has been as well. There's a lot of teams in there that you see how it can expand from here. Like you see the growth, you see what it's projecting to. Even teams like the Trinity, who play in the biggest stadium of anybody in the USL. I mean, Cotton Bowl's what, 80-something thousand? and they make it a good atmosphere. Like, watch a match, it's fun. And I think you see what it can project to, and it's definitely something worth watching and paying attention to going forward, as you should have been anyway.
I think the fascinating thing that I'm going to be looking for in the next couple weeks is the roster building style. Like, how much retention is there? Do we see some of these players get plucked by NWSL clubs? And some of that is my complete unawareness of the mechanisms that the NWSL uses to acquire players and what their windows might look like. But if you're a team like Tampa Bay, who had so many pretty young players pop during this playoff run, does that draw attention? And does the fact like somebody like a Sam Meza goes back to Seattle and excels after the loan stint, how does that affect the market? And ironically, we've not seen much of a USL to MLS market, but if we see something like that happen on the women's side, I think it would be unbelievably great for the game.
I mean, we kind of talked about her a little bit. I mean, Nacello getting the MVP for the final MVP, not playoff MVP, but final MVP. You're telling me there's not an NWSL team that doesn't want her coming off the bench at the very least?
Like, you've got a player that can play on either wing, went 10 of 16 for dribbles in a single game in the title game. She could eat a defense alive at any level. Like, I can't be convinced otherwise.
Ryan, what say you?
Yeah, it was a very exciting match. You had Tampa Bay, who had their 7th one-goal victory on the season, and to get the result at home in front of what we said, the sellout crowd of over 5,000 fans, there is just a tremendous atmosphere and a really great result for Tampa Bay and for the league in their inaugural season. And as Andy had said in chat, they are getting the boat parade as well, which is terrific to see. But as we kind of move into the summer, like John had said, it's going to be very interesting to see kind of the roster builds that teams are going to have carrying over. And a few of the other things that kind of jump out to me are teams who will like very quickly be kind of gearing back up for the season of just like how soon of a turnaround as we're going to see. Like, for instance, Lexington are going to be playing Racing Louisville in a friendly on July 13th, which is not that far away. That's very much kind of around the corner. And we're seeing teams who are already thinking towards next year or thinking on how Tampa Bay can defend their title, how Carolina can turn their shield into a playoff victory as well. So it's going to be a very interesting summer for the league ahead.
Well, as we look at what's coming ahead, I mean, you mentioned more friendlies. Dallas is playing Club America. That's a big one. That should be a ton of fun to check out. There's going to be a lot of those that pop up. Unfortunately for me, and I say unfortunately because this is where I'm just going to give my take that I've felt for a long time. I'm throwing out there of U.S. soccer fans care more about real estate than soccer, because the biggest Super League news to come out this week is not Tampa Bay winning the championship. It's, of course, Tampa Bay is getting a stadium. And that was announced by USL HQ that they are getting their own 15,000 seater stadium, which, if it is a women's soccer only stadium, I believe would make it the largest women's soccer specific stadium in the world. Certainly the biggest in the United States, would beat Kansas City by about 3,000. So huge deal for the Tampa Bay Sun to get that. Also, USL HQ would be inside of that footprint. I don't know if they're necessarily inside of the stadium, but at the very least, they're within the footprint of what's being built. And to some people are just like, well, that's now we have to worry about biased USL, whatever. Like MLB's main headquarters, the NFL's main headquarters is inside of the Rams and Chargers stadium. Like, that's where the NFL is. Like, it's not unusual to put a league's HQ inside of a state-of-the-art facility. It can definitely house that. It doesn't make them biased, I promise. Although Nicholas Murray definitely hates your club.
Yeah, it's a nice flagship, like crown jewel for USL if it happens. Right there in right outside of downtown Tampa, with those offices. Like, I think it's great. I'd be wondering if the Rowdies might make a move over there when their stadium continues to start falling apart, but different ownership groups.
Yeah, that was one thing. I had a lot of people message me and ask, like, are the Rowdies in like limbo because they're not a part of this? Like, do they not think that they're going to be around for the long haul? The Rowdies and the Sun do have different ownership groups. I think there's like minority monies that are shared, but primary owners are different. So that's not a concern.
Yeah, and given that the Rowdies share ownership with the Rays, where we kind of know what the situation is and the lack of financial support that they have suffered from, I wouldn't necessarily put my eggs in a basket of the Rowdies doing their own thing, which puts this in a bit of a precarious situation. So I'd love to see teamwork. I don't know if it'll happen, but I think the main focus obviously has to be the success of the Sun,
Absolutely.
what they did building up support during the year, selling out the final. I mean, I love the venue they were at now, like right on the water. It looked gorgeous, like a great presentation. But this is onward and upward, and I think they're really setting the tone for what this league can be. I saw someone online compare it to like what Lou City did on the men's side, getting Lynn Family Stadium and being that flagship club. Feels like the Sun are treading that same path.
Well, okay. They're right on the riverfront. That's what the nice, pretty, drawings have showed us. They're right on the riverfront. They got to keep the riverboat entrance. That has to just stay a thing. That cannot leave. We got to keep it. Same thing. I now hate Rhode Island for not doing boat entrances. What are we doing? You have an opportunity. In Pittsburgh, although they have a train track, it's a little harder, but still.
Train entrance, what are we talking about?
Please, Detroit. But yeah, apparently in this article, and I got to find it again, it was pointed out to me, and I got to make sure it is here, that it was mentioned of the Division I USL league would be starting in 2028. Apparently that was mentioned in there. So that's like a actual specific, not 27, 28, but 2028. So that's kind of news, but also like, if we're all being honest, I think everybody in here said choose the 28, not the 27. Like we kind of know how this thing goes. So any final thoughts on this particular news or the final in general? No? Okay. Well, how about we go over to a little bit of League One? And there was a whole lot of fun stuff that happened in this week. I want to start down with Naples and Chattanooga, where it got fun really fast, and then it didn't. The only thing that did not happen in this match is that we did not get a brawl to end the match. So we don't know who the true winners of the, 2 out of 3. We'll just have to wait for the playoffs. But John, I don't want to take what you have written for your back four. You should read that. Everybody should subscribe to your back four articles. But Naples has hit a bit of a just kind of rut. They aren't quite winning the same way they were before, but Chattanooga still seems to be finding a way. How much of this is Naples is just kind of sputtering a little bit, and how much of this is like, man, maybe Chattanooga is legit?
Watching this game, as much as I liked some of the tweaks from Naples as they kind of move into a back three and pair Justin Weiss with Carson Henderlong up top, and obviously Weiss gets the brace on the only 2 shots on target the Naples produces. But by and large, I came away impressed with Chattanooga. They know what they want to be. They're 3-4-3. They're pretty pressureful. I thought the way that no matter where or when they entered the final third, they were trying to hammer the ball into the box. That's just classic Red Wolves soccer. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to be on the front foot. I mean, they got that nice goal from Michael Knapp where he's flashing on the corner kick. Everything about this team is about opportunism and taking advantage of any chance they can get. Naples, maybe not there yet. Like, they want to be a little bit more stylish. This was a nice bridge maybe between the early season ideology that Matt Polland wanted to bring to the table with something probably more pragmatic that'll let them get results. But yeah, kind of 2 teams passing in the night in the table. And I thought this was a game where both of them came away with useful takeaways.
What about you, Alex? What did you see?
So Chattanooga, Naples cannot beat Chattanooga. This is the third time they've met this season. Red Wolves won the first one 3-1, had a 1-1 draw, and then this 2-2 draw. Chattanooga, you're going to get chaos. You're going to get players who are having fun, who are able to overcome adversity. Chattanooga traveled on this one with 4 field players on the bench. This is and it's not the first time this season they've done this. I don't know what the status of the players. They don't really share injury reports, but Eric Knenzer and Omar Gomez, who played the full 90 last week, were missing. Kimball Jackson, we haven't seen him since May 10th. Johnny Felipe has been out since April 5th. They just, they travel with this bare bones squad and still manage to take on to leave Naples in a draw, which is something that most teams have not been able to do this season. They started with a strong defensive posture, that 5-4-1 setup. Then they knew what they were getting into with Naples. I think credit to Naples and Justin Weiss for his first professional start, and then scored a brace after starting the year on the injured reserve. So that was really cool to see. But yeah, Chattanooga, I don't know if they're going to be able to sustain this, but we've been saying this for the last couple of months, and they've still been able to do it. So the organizational issue is going to catch up with them. Are the injuries going to catch up with them? I don't know. At this point, because they aren't. We're at the halfway point of the season almost.
They're 2 games short of the last time that they had won or went unbeaten 6 games in a row. They did 8 games unbeaten in August of 2022, which is impressive to say the least for Chattanooga. If results go their way this weekend, they could be jumping Naples in the table. And this is a Naples team who have, as Kaylor had put it, gone through a rut recently. They have just 1 win in their last 6. However, they do have at least a goal in each of those last 6 games for both teams to score. It's just, it's been really wild to see a Chattanooga team really putting things together and kind of establish themselves as one of the more competitive teams of League One.
And you see with Chattanooga, Omar Hernandez early in the match had that just outstanding outside of the box shot that hit the post. Most of Chattanooga's goals up to this match had come from outside of the box. They're just they can hit you from anywhere. And in this one, both of them came from. They actually got 2 from inside the box for I think the first time this season.
I guess my question here is we're looking at Chattanooga and we're talking about them, and I feel like in a way Naples got off to such a hot start that there's a part of us that's forgotten that they're an expansion club, right? They are the 3rd best team in the league. They are well ahead of AV Alta, although AV Alta is very, very good after a slow start. I mean, we're seeing Texoma, they're alive, but they've gotten okay, but they've gotten nowhere close to the level of where Naples was. Hearts of Pine, I mean, they just had an awesome moment. We're going to talk about their most recent match in a second. And then Westchester is sitting at the very bottom because they hate holding on to leads. Naples got so good so early that I feel like we hold them in a different light than the rest of the expansion clubs. Is that fair for me to say?
I still think Naples is the real deal. They've settled in here mid-season, but they're still definitely top, a top 5, top 6 team in this league right now.
I was kind of struck by the similarity to Spokane's arc last season, where Spokane starts well by playing this possessive style using a back 4 formation. And then they have this summer doldrum period where they experiment a little bit. They try to tweak the identity. You kind of wonder if Naples is going through the same journey. And I think that you can also point to the similar strength of leadership on the sideline, the great coaching jobs that both have. So I'm still trusting the process. And I think you're right, Kaylor, to point out Like, we are talking about Naples and framing them as, oh, are they kind of losing the Thunder because they started so well? And that's a high compliment to an expansion team. So yeah, not worried about them really.
And I don't know this for certain. This is purely anecdotal, but I do think that there is something to some of these teams who come out quick out of the blocks in both League One and the championship sputtering in this period of like June, July. I don't know why it happens specifically, but I do think that there is something to like some of these teams who really, really sprint out of the blocks, like sometimes struggle come the dog days. These like once it gets hotter, I don't know if that plays a part, whatever, but yeah, Naples, I think a stumble rather than a fall, and hopefully that's the case. So yeah, I think Naples is okay, but I was impressed by Red Bulls in this and just how much they dominated, and it does seem like it might be a little bit of both, where Naples is stumbling a little bit, but Red Bulls are certainly like they're playing a lot more seriously than they typically do.
I kind of going back to Chattanooga because I don't know who it actually is, but I see it on the USL League One Reddit every single week, like a full-on love letter to the owner to like sell the club, like we hate you, and like it cracks me up. But also, Alex mentioned it, they don't fill out a full 18. Like the conversation I have about Loudon of saying we'll see if they have enough players to survive, I actually think that about Chattanooga, right? And I think a lot of us talk glowingly about Chattanooga because, like, look at what they're doing. Look at, how much they're building. Look at how much they've improved. We're talking about them like, frankly, they were Fuego because we know the issues they had off the pitch. Chattanooga's bringing in that same baggage. I hate it for the players and I hate it for the coaching staff down there. But, like, that's kind of the conversation we're having because even with good results, like a draw away from home, that's a good result any day of the week. And their fans are like, sell the team.
I've heard from multiple sources surrounded with the team that there are some organizational shortfalls this season that are very obvious and also not so obvious. They seem to be in a bit of a management transition where it feels like that the current ownership is kind of going cheap right now in anticipation of reinvesting when Pro Rel and the Super League come to town. And it's
okay, man.
We'll see.
Which is the line for all of these clubs of, oh, we're waiting for D1, oh, we're waiting for Pro Rel. Like, guys, that's 2028 at this point.
And like
wait till
a founding member of this league, and like this has been a well documented issue with the Red Wolves that we see like shortcomings that they've had everywhere. Or like we all like to kind of point to their victory that they had on a Wednesday afternoon as just like, oh, this is like funny. I was just like on the face of it, but like this has been well documented for Chattanooga to at least to like try and figure everything out because they've had more than enough time in this league to get that done.
Yeah, a former player, Jamil Roberts, has a podcast.
I love that. It's so good.
He had a recent episode about USL teams and how they need to do the bare minimum. Scroll through some of the comments on their Instagram posts and see what some of the Chattanooga players had to say.
Good, interesting. Kind of a team that's come out and has done it right all the way. Portland Hearts of Pine. And Ollie Wright, you are a superstar. You get a hat trick to take down Union Omaha, who we thought maybe they figured it out against their biggest rival in the Green Bowl Triumph. They go up 1-0, and you're thinking, yep, hey, the Owls are hot. They figured it out. They are who they are. Ollie Wright is that guy. And, how can you say no to the team that's, giving out tattoos and has a guy playing the bagpipes in the stand? Like, what an absolute time to be alive. what a night for Portland. Don't ask them what happened later that night with Rafael Devers. They don't remember.
I mean, Omaha kind of dominated the first half of that match, and I thought, going into the second half, I thought that I was feeling good about Omaha's prospects here, like they were going to get a third in a row. But yeah, the second half turned into the Ollie Wright show, and that was all they needed. Like Omaha's defense just looked, how do you say it politely? They were struggling, slow, sluggish. Like it was a mess back there for Omaha. And it doesn't help with Omaha that none of their strikers have scored a goal in league play this season. Like that, like you can't sustain a run back to the championship if your strikers aren't scoring.
Yeah, and I mean, you think about that tale of two halves in this game. Portland only has one shot total in the first 45 minutes, and Omaha felt like they were doing everything right. I thought Pato Batella-Faz, a player with some real championship experience who they just brought in, did a great job holding play up and letting things develop. Then you get the counter press, then you're settled into the final third. And crucially, that stops the players like Wada and Ollie Wright from doing their thing. And something just changed in the second half where he felt less involved. I thought the defensive organization was quite poor for Omaha. Like the relationship between Akoff and Lawrence Wooten on that side just didn't feel right. And time and again, it was Messer getting into the pocket, Ollie Wright in the half space, those two combining and just tearing Omaha to shreds in transition. And like full credit to Ollie Wright because the goals he scored were ridiculous. And I think there are a lot of games where maybe this ends up 1-1, where Portland has the momentum, but they don't get those like genuine moments of inspiration. But I don't know, something about Hearts of Pine in that stadium with that crowd, they've got the juju in a way that we shouldn't discount.
It felt like, to your point, John, like it did feel a little bit magical, like from Ollie Wright, sort of like a player meeting a moment and riding this wave of momentum and just doing all of the right stuff in the right spaces, the right moments. I mean, that first goal is absolutely crazy in terms of the close control. I would say it's rare in League One, or I mean, in the championship, in USL probably in general, for a player to take over in that sense and to be just so like sort of locked in to pull that stuff off in the moments that he had. Because to be honest, like Hearts of Pine had 4 shots on target. They had 6 shots in the whole match, right? Like Omaha definitely deserved, in terms of like just total output, they had the better of things across the whole 90 minutes. And you can't legislate for a player like that just seizing the moment and making the most of it. It was like wonderful to watch. Obviously, like the hat trick goal, shirt off celebration, packed stadium going absolutely insane. That's the type of stuff that just like builds legends in new clubs like this. And I don't begrudge Portland anything with this result. And I also think I'm still putting off the like panic button hit for Omaha, even if they hit the panic button a little bit in response to this one, but not maybe not. I would say with the players at the top of this lineup, I still feel pretty strongly that they're going to be okay.
And Phil, as you mentioned, just talking about teams or like moments that kind of help build clubs. Oh, it's for expansion teams, and like we talked about it with how we perceive how Naples are as an expansion team. It really is a simple fact of just winning cures everything. This is a Portland team that's won 3 consecutive home matches with 9 goals scored in that time. It's just like it's as simple as that for this Portland Hearts of Pine team. That it is just really impressive what they've managed to do this year. But yeah, we certainly do have to kind of talk about Omaha for the fact that they've conceded 3 goals in a single half for the first time in 1,007 days. And the other changes that they've made to their squad happening all today.
Yeah, they announced very suddenly today around noon that they had released or mutually terminated contracts with goalkeeper Russell Shealy, midfielder Kimi Amiche, and striker Omari. So it should be noted that that none of them played in this match. We haven't seen Sheely since the very beginning of the season. They brought in another goalkeeper.
Cole Jensen, I think.
Yeah, Cole Jensen on a 25-day contract, converted over to a full season. So Sheely, he kind of lost his backup spot behind Rashid Nuhu. So you can't really blame him for wanting to exit and find some other opportunities. But the other two, I think, came in with a lot of hype, and you're replacing Steven Dos Santos and Pedro Dolabella. Those are some tough shoes to fill. Or Arami in particular, he tore up MLS Next Pro last year with Chattanooga, but didn't really live up to the expectations here. But neither of them, Amiche or Arami, have been seen since since May 25th. So they were not even a part of this match. So it seemed like it was just something that was coming.
Yeah, and we saw other terminations kind of happen around the league. Justin Dillon was, I think, probably the big shocker of all the ones. I was definitely shocked by Dillon being released, but I guess we can talk about that more later when we get to championship. But even so, that was the big one. But I don't know if there's an unofficial, you can terminate a contract by this date thing, but every team just deciding we're done with you around 3 days was bizarre.
Yeah, I don't think there's any formal benefit to doing it now, but I think it's just that point in the season where you have a real good sense for what your squad is. Maybe if you can get rid of a player, you've opened up the room to go get somebody else that's more useful to your needs. We'll talk about Dillon later, but I think that explains a lot across these moves.
Yeah, it's the mid mark of the season is coming in a couple weeks, so yeah.
I guess for me, I want to just kind of get back to Portland and just kind of sing their praises because we'll be out there July 25th. Come say hi to us. We're doing oyster shots. We'll see you there. And I want to try to talk Ryan into getting a Portland's Hearts of Pine tattoo live on stream. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, I mean, Ollie Wright, you kind of mentioned, I think it was Phil that mentioned, having the ability to be in the moment while taking over the moment. We saw earlier this year where he scored the goal, immediately jumped the fence to go find his dad, right? He seems like a player who is very aware of the moment at all times. And for someone to, have the heart on their sleeve, if, we're trying to go into the brand a little bit, doesn't it seem like a perfect place for him? I mean, Portland loves that team. I mean, they love that team. And for him to be that open with his emotions, be that aware of the moment, and, being aware of the moment, I'm just going to throw it out there. No need for other kind of commentary on it. But Coach Bobby Murphy wearing the neat shirt, before the game, right? They are they are a team that's insanely plugged into their community and into what's happening around them. And Ollie Wright seems to be the perfect fit amongst that for me.
Yeah, they've had their ups and downs this season, and now they're on that upswing, and this is kind of what we expected from Ollie Wright coming in. So it's nice to see him finally getting there.
So how about we move over really fast where we had more Battle of the Birds, which, by the way, here's a question. Other than Phoenix, do we have any birds in the championship? I don't feel like we don't. Oh, no, Tulsa. There's Tulsa. Because I was about to say, I feel like every other week we have a Battle of the Birds in League One. The Double Birds versus Statesboro. Bolt's falling off. I've said it. And
wow.
Where is he? That's the last time you've seen
Bolt. After you, man.
This is how you summon him.
Yeah, that's great. I haven't seen Bolt show face in 3 years. Where is he?
He's been waiting for this.
He's been undercover.
Bolt got a championship and he just went off to Cancun or something. I haven't seen him since.
Somewhere somebody is switching accounts. real fast.
Like, wait, what's the password? Forgot password?
But Tormenta goes up early. Gabby Alves gets a goal. But I mean, William Perkins ends up getting the equalizer. Aaron Walker, a guy who we thought would be an absolute superstar again with his Tormenta team, again assisted by Alves, makes it 2-1. But again, Tormenta refuses to have a normal match. They just absolutely hate it. And McCormick gets the equalizer. For Tormenta, it felt like a clear moment to finally get a win, to finally get on top of it. But Texoma continues to prove more than just competence, but they have moments of brilliance.
Yeah, Texoma's efficient.
Yeah.
They don't take many shots, but when they do, they tend to go in. I think this one they made 2 of 2. Yeah, Texoma, they're on a 5-match lossless streak. Didn't see that coming. But it's been a lot of fun to watch their progress. And in Tormenta, I think they show, they're showing some incremental signs of improvement here. We'll see moving forward, but I think they kind of needed to not lose.
Yeah, and you think about why they were improving in this game. I think the balance across the front line really felt natural for them, specifically in the use of Taylor Gray, who was allowed to just run all over the place, tuck inside. I think if there's something I've been critical about with Tormenta, it's the lack of third man movement. You're not getting anything off the ball. And Gray all night long was occupying defenders and making that happen. And I think you saw those relationships bear out with him and Walker and Bazzini. At the same time, it's the story of 2025 Tormenta that they can't get out of their own way. For me, both of the goals they concede are the result of like bad clearances, bad individual mistakes. They are goals that you shouldn't be allowing. And this is a match where Tormenta limited Texoma to 0.6 XG. And again, credit to Texoma for being efficient. But Tormenta should have come away with 3 points. And I think it'll be disappointing for Ian Cameron to keep dropping opportunities to start climbing the table.
Yeah, and that's said about Texoma, though. I'll say it as much as possible. I think Ajmer Spengler is one of the most underrated, sneaky good midfielders in the league. I don't know why Tormenta let him go, and I think he showed, he showed them that they shouldn't have let him go in this match. But also, speaking of former Tormenta players, Preston Kilwine is like he's peaking into his own right now. He's a defensive beast. He's locking down that left side of the pitch for Texoma, and he's been a big part of their success recently.
Any other thoughts on this one before we go to the championship?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit of like he can't keep getting away with this for Texoma for me. Like that's I don't know. I'm not buying it. Like it's gotta like at some point there's a regression to the mean, and you can't take 6 shots. Like you can't take 6 shots 2 on target in a game and draw 2-2 all the time. Like that's just not a thing.
So let me, by the way, I want to go ahead because I forgot to do it earlier. I was too excited to talk about beer. I need to give our patrons a shout out. So I want to thank our newest patron, by the way. Shout out Josh. Thank you so much for supporting us. We appreciate you so much. Thank you, Josh. And if you want to be like Josh and get a special shout out for being our latest patron, you can join Josh, Dylan, William, Sandy, Ryan, Matt Catpeel, Timothy Meadows, All the Hedgehog, Kunal Patel, MOS, NF Fresh 30, Tim Knox, Rion Lacara, Stephen Howard, Jeremy Churchman, Alberto Aguilar, Noah Telford, Michael Fuchs, Joshua Duder, John Fuller, Christopher Cohn, Frank Anthony, John Hunt, Harry Austin at patreon.com/the USL show. And, just hit us with a little $5 and just be, or I think it has $5 and just get any kind of interview we do early, or if you just want to have your name read or have your name show up on the cool ticker here at the bottom, whatever you want to do, support us, or like, comment, share, subscribe, the whole thing. We appreciate you so very much. So let's look at the championship, where I want to start off with Loudoun. And I don't know how you start off the Loudon conversation other than Abukora is so good. Like, they were down 1-0 and Abukora gets a goal. And a second one right before the half because him and Velo together as a partnership is just not okay. Michael Bryant gets a goal after like getting tackled, standing up, and because he got tackled, the guy that tackled him was out of the play. Free header or free finish at the far post, and then Zach Ryan comes alive and gets the game winner. It was a fun match, but Abukora, man, he's so good.
Second in the Golden Boot race right now, one goal behind Cal Jennings.
And Loudon, there are so many things to like about this team. Like, you look at the system, you watch the way they execute, it's almost flawless. But the thing that puts them over the top, it's Abukora. He is, again, that moment of inspiration, that guy who can make something out of nothing. You think about that first goal in particular, he receives kind of in the left half space with 3 Detroit defenders in front of him and then dribbles through all of them, places a perfect shot in the bottom pocket to score. Like, everything about that is a next level play that you can't expect out of a USL player. And the second goal, he's switching over to the right in transition. The third one is a bit of direct play for Loudon. This, in so many ways, was a showcase for Abukora, but a showcase for how Loudon can adapt and find those moments and find that extra gear. Detroit is a tough team to beat, even as they're flagging, but I thought this was a statement win for Loudon.
Yeah, I mean, that second goal from Loudon just really, to me, embodies like the ceiling sort of for this team, where it's just like, this is how good they can be, like how devastating they can be. They pick up the ball at midfield, there's progression on the dribble, there's progression in the pass, and then it's Velo's like spot of Abukora, and a absolutely like that finish is a lot tougher than I think he makes it look. Like, the ball pops up on him and he hits it on the volley, like in no space, basically. Yeah, it's a wonderful goal. They played extremely well. That being said, like, the one thing that is holding me back, and again, this is, some people will probably say like, Phil, you just want Loudon to fail because you have a whole thing about it. And I'm telling you that the Lads protocol is still on hold. Like, we're not invoking the Lads protocol, but my only concern with them is the goals they concede and the shots they concede. Like, in general, now in the chat, Soccer Enjoyer is saying Hugo needs props too. Farouk makes some ridiculous saves, and like, because what was it last week? He made like 8 saves or something like that.
Yeah.
And while Hugo Farouk, amazing, you do not want, especially at the top end of the table, like, you do not want your keeper having to do that amount of work in these games, because we know that teams like Charleston and Louisville like definitely do not ask their keepers to do that amount of work, and they are going to ask questions of any defense. So the only thing holding me back from Loudon's like full hype is just the amount of chances they concede. But overall, with a guy like Abukora, you're never going to be like, you're never out of a game. And as they showcased in this one between Abukora and Zach Ryan, they always have a shot at digging themselves out and going on and winning a game that, you know, it looked a little bit in the balance a couple of times, because like you said, Detroit, tough team, but they dug themselves out and they got the 3 points, and it is an impressive win for sure. I just worry a little bit about Loudon defensively.
And across all competitions, Abukora, when he scores, Loudon has won 8 games on the year. He's so instrumental to how this team plays. But if we're going to look at it from Detroit's perspective, we talked about kind of within Naples and other teams that they start out hot and have this kind of like almost like midsummer, I guess, wobble, if you will. This was a Detroit team who had just 1 defeat against USL opposition in their first 11 games of the season, and have now lost 4 in a row, between 3 in the league and then the defeat against Portland right now. And I guess to kind of turn the conversation to Detroit, They have Miami, Hartford, and Oakland as their next three. Hartford and Oakland are two teams that they could definitely kind of help get things back on track. But what's kind of the vibes from everyone here on how Detroit's been playing?
Well, I'm glad you brought back up the team starts hot, then they have a wobble. I think, Phil, to answer your question, the teams that start off really hot are usually the ones that we don't expect to. And I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that teams immediately underestimate them because, we didn't think Detroit City would be very good this year. Go back and watch our preview of them. We had no belief, right? Very little to say the least. Same thing for a Chattanooga, same thing for an FC Naples. Then the league figures them out. They make an adjustment. And Dicchio tried to make an adjustment. We saw it for like 2-3 weeks a couple weeks ago, and it was bad. And he made another adjustment, and it looks a lot better now. I think when you see the teams that start off bad and then get hot, it's the same thing. Lads, it's Oakland, right? Or guys, it's just insert name here. Then they're going to go get hot for a minute because teams overlook them because they have a match versus I don't know. We'll just say like Louisville next week. We can overlook this team because Louisville's next week. Oakland gets a win, and they keep on winning, and they get hot. I think that's what happens. Ryan, I think that this is Detroit's a good team. I do like what they're doing. Do I think they're part of the top three? No, I don't. Do you know who is a part of the top three? Loudoun. And Loudoun's really good. I think they got beat by a couple moments of brilliance and a really good squad. I think against all teams that are not Loudoun, Louisville, and Charleston, Detroit walks away with 3 points. Bill, to talk about your the second goal really fast, Velo plays a good ball, right? And I'm going to Paul George a little bit here. If I'm Cedeno, I'm saying that's a bad shot. There's never a world where that should go into the back of the net. It was a good ball, an even better finish. What every coach will probably tell you is, hey, maybe you should look across the box again. Get one more cross, get one more cross across the box and try to find someone there. But Awakora just finishes that because he's special. And that just kind of sums up the season he's having.
But I think there's something to be said in that moment where Saldana entered the year thinking he was going to be the number one, got benched for a lot of weeks. Now he's back, and he doesn't have the confidence in that moment. And I think that applies to a lot of what Detroit City is doing, where they started the year so bright in the way they broke teams down. Like they were climbing the ladder, finding Jesse El Cedeno, getting everyone involved. That's really no longer the case. And as good as we thought Detroit looked, like it's been almost 2 months, I want to say, since they put up more than 2 XG in a game. They put up 0.6 against Loudoun. Do with that what you will, but I think the offense is broken in a pretty meaningful way right now. Pair that in with some of the defensive errors, some of that loss of confidence. I think I am a little worried for Detroit, and I kind of see them as a bubble team at the moment.
Well, a team that we have been low on, I am so excited to let the friends of Lexington know that we're going to speak positively about you. You get a good win, a great win versus arguably the best team in the West, New Mexico United. New Mexico, I hate it for you because I feel like we only talk about you when you lose. But it's because when you win, it isn't noteworthy. That's just what you do. We think that highly of you. Sorry, Phil.
Most of us. Listen. This match, I feel so vindicated by this. I have had New Mexico on fraud watch since day one, and finally they're being found out. New Mexico scored a really good goal in this game. Their first goal was disgusting. And again, I do think there's something about this New Mexico side that when they get kind of pulled into a game, into playing the other team's game, kind of pulled into the bar fight, if you will, to use a bit of a crass term. I think they can look like very average and sort of play down a little bit. Not to be disrespectful to Lexington, but I think they allowed Lexington to sort of bring them into their game, and they got sort of out of shape a couple of times. And in general, the Maples Ryden pairing, I don't know if this is controversial to say. I don't think it's it. I think Kalen Ryden's kind of cooked. Like, I think his best days are behind him, unfortunately. And yeah, he's lost a little bit of a step, and they just looked a little bit out of shape a couple of times, and Lexington were able to pounce. That being said, I think New Mexico is probably fine, but I don't know. I felt extremely vindicated by this because they looked bang average compared to how they normally look. And I think, I don't know, this felt more normal for New Mexico, and they finally got their comeuppance.
You think about the turning point of the game, just to kind of push back on the Ryden thing. Like, he goes off injured after 65 minutes, and immediately it's comeback time for
True.
Lexington. But I think you're right about when a team takes the fight to New Mexico, and now we've seen it with Lexington, El Paso, Phoenix, and gets in their face, tightens up the midfield, tightly man marks them. They kind of lose the patterns that make a Dennis Sanchez team so successful. And credit to Lexington. Like, they've been through the ringer. They've got away from what worked for them in the opening weeks of the season. But this was the high press, and this was activating some of those new players out wide. I thought both Michael Adedokun and Alfredo Medense were unreal in this match. Adedokun, very much a head-down kind of dribbling presence. Medense was so good creatively. When you've got that almost off-kilter sensibility from side to side, it's just hard to defend against. And the way Forster Ajaga was moving centrally, this was the most dangerous we've seen Lexington look by far this year, and deserved win for them. I hope it can be the point where they really start to build momentum, because I think they're better than last place in the West on the strength of their performances.
Yeah,
It's their first time. Oh, sorry, I was saying it's their first time since they had a come from behind victory against Chattanooga in May of 2024 that they've conceded first and ended up taking the lead in a very, I guess, anti-Westchester type of manner, if you will. But John, you bring up a really good point, just talking about the teams that have really taken it to New Mexico. I read about it later on in my odds article for this week, but you almost have to be worried, like, for New Mexico, are they going to experience almost a hangover, if you will, in their next match coming up against San Antonio, as like they've now had basically three teams show San Antonio as this is the blueprint to really take it to New Mexico and beat them.
Alex, you had some.
Oh, I was just gonna say, we rag on Lexington. I think that was a great statement. Great statement win at home. That's something they needed. The players and the fans needed that.
Yeah, I think
this is Western Conference country in Lexington. It's still weird to talk about.
I know, right?
It's awful.
It's
East
New
of
Mexico's
Louisville.
Stool in the desert.
East of Louisville.
It's New Mexico's third farthest east loss of club history.
And it's an in-conference loss.
That's really good.
I think for me, there was a key spot here in Brooks Thompson. I'm very impressed with what Brooks Thompson did personally. Right, he was somebody that got playing time with North Carolina. I thought he had earned a championship #1 spot. Then he goes to Hartford, joins their 7 goalkeepers they had there for some reason, gets sent on loan to Spokane, where he plays great again. And he goes back to Hartford, and then he goes to Lexington, which has an established #1 at that point. What Thompson was bringing in terms of, I don't know what his numbers say passing wise, like what he was able to do passing and all that kind of stuff, but he felt more confident. Everybody felt more comfortable with him with the ball at his feet, being able to make something happen. It felt like there was more comfortability there. And he's a really good shot stopper. right? And I'm not saying that Brooks Thompson is the reason that they won. It's not like Lexington created all these chances and he stood on his head, but it felt like a part of it. And with a lot of Lexington's losses, John, you mentioned it, on the strength of their performances, it always felt like they were just little bits away, little moments away. And maybe the small little cog in the machine of Brooks Thompson, maybe that's enough to get them over the line on certain days, enough to get them to be a little bit more fluid going from back to front. Because that felt like it was a key moment for me, or a key part to me.
Yeah, and to say that they have been a sleeping giant is probably a little bit strong, but you add Thompson into a defense that's genuinely been really good. When you think about Kendall Burks and Joe Hafferty, even what Sofiane Jafal is doing in the number 6 spot, like they had a spine that you could trust, and it was just the goal scoring. So you add a keeper that can be a difference maker in the high leverage moments. You find that balance up top. This team starts to make a lot more sense in the way they're coming together.
And I guess another just a little bit for me is like, I think we're finally starting to feel consistency in the Lexington team in terms of lineup.
Yep.
Like we've joked so much about who you're going to see this week, but it was a joke because it was true. Like we signed a new player, they're instantly joining the A team. Great. We finally are getting consistency, and they finally look like they know who they're passing to at all times. It's little things like that which feel obvious, but good for Lexington. The West is a slog. They're in the middle of this thing. This isn't like they are way back there, a few wins in a row, and they're not just in the playoffs. They're fighting for a home playoff spot at this point. Ryan, did you have something? No? Okay. I thought you like unmuted. My bad. Okay. Does anybody have anything for open floor? If you do, think about it for a second, because I do want to talk about Justin Dillon a little bit.
We were going in the same direction on this, Kaylor.
Okay. Yeah, so with Dillon, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. It could be personal reasons. I think it said personal reasons in the press release, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. But we don't know if that's like family, which if it is, like thoughts and prayers to him. I hope everything's okay. It could be the fact that Colorado Springs is not very good this year, whatever it may be. But that's not a player that you expect to lose. It's not like the Union Omaha situation of they haven't played in months and they're never going to play again. Like he was getting playing time. That was a shocking press release to come across, the email.
See, in watching this team and how they've kind of moved away from what Justin Dillon is good at, and then you look and see, he hasn't actually started a game since May 3rd. I kind of think it's a playing time thing where he maybe has an opportunity to go somewhere that wants him. Like in this most recent game where they beat Oakland over the weekend, it's essentially a 4-3-3 with Juan Tejada like straight up playing as a midfielder, and they're going for speed, they're going for flexibility up top. It's Fontana, it's Wehrman, it's Yosuke Hanya. That's not a setup where Justin Dillon is going to thrive, and I think he can definitely go and do a job. Like you look at what Pato Botelho is doing in Omaha, Justin Dillon is the luxury version of that with more goal scoring to add into the mix. But yeah, kind of an interesting inflection point for a Switchbacks team that struggled to find their new identity post-title and is getting there. And I think Justin Dillon is just a victim of that process.
I'm wondering if Madison and Omaha are talking to his agent right now.
Omaha would be fascinating.
Omaha would be good. But I know that Omaha hasn't gotten goal scoring out of their strikers, but I feel like Madison needs him more.
Get ready to learn the Tappan Zee Bridge, buddy.
It's
a little Westchester joke for any of the Westchester heads in the chat.
It's still the Tappan Zee Bridge to me.
I mean, if
I will never call it.
You won't get me to say his name out loud.
I will never call it the other. Yeah.
If we're thinking about guys who got released, Westchester could use Justin Rasmussen in a bad way right now, given the shape
Yes.
of their defense.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, though, talking to Oakland people, maybe John or Phil or Ryan, the guys who like watch championship regularly, Alex, I don't know how many Oakland matches you have able to catch up on, but you know, apparently his defense was what was lacking for him.
Which is
Allegedly.
preposterous. The guy played as a center back in Next Pro. Like, he's played as he's flexible. He was good last season. And frankly, I think the left back spot has been dismal defensively for Oakland all year long. So I don't see how Justin Rasmussen is the fall guy here. Obviously, I'm not happy with a lot of things that are happening with the way the Roots are going directionally right now. But yeah, I think Rasmussen can go somewhere and start from minute one. Like, he's that level of player.
Well, I have another open floor thing, which was 13 players were called up from the W League to the like the talent pool for the U.S. Women's National Team, the ID pool. So Emily Edwards, Olivia Gayer or Geller, I'm not sure which one it is. Sarah Martin, Adeline Todd, Amelia Dre, Ellery Fife, Millie Greer, Malia Martin, Ava Priest, Ava Verplanken or Planke, Cooney Hirari, Zoe Main, and Austin Miller. They all got called up to the U.S. like Women's National Team ID pool, which is just more of my proof and just kind of telling you, go watch the W League and League Two, because it's not just semi-pro. Like, those are players that are going to be professionals very, very soon. Like, you need to go. It's very fun. Very, very fun.
Yeah. Here in Richmond Ivy, we had our striker from last year is now professional at the top division in Finland. And one of our current strikers plays for the Jamaican national team.
Like, there's just so much talent. Like, League Two always puts out the post of, hey, look at all these players in the FA Cup. Yep, that's right. They started in League Two. You know, check out all these people that made it from League Two. I talked about this on the Super League watch along when I was with Benji. But Centaur. Yeah. She was with Rain right now, up and coming superstar. She started with Racing Louisville 2's team. And so, like, if you were watching the W League, she was right there the entire time, one of the future stars of the U.S. Women's National Team. Like, there's a lot of really good talent out there. It's really, really fun. Same point, though. Can I just wait? Somebody else go. I'm going to bring this up as my last point because it's hilarious. If anybody else has
that, how do we top that?
Yeah,
I'm saving
the suspense
my
is
stuff
killing me.
I'm saving my stuff for the predictions, anyways, because
Okay.
Yeah, I have a
If
feeling we've got
Locomotive
some
are in
negative Locomotive thoughts.
Entertain
Yeah.
us, Kaler.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, worst team in the league in League Two is Coachella SC. With the vibes that comes with Coachella, you can only imagine how this will go. They have 1 point through all their matches. Okay, whatever. They're not very good. 7 goals scored through 9 matches. Okay, they're not scoring that much. They've conceded 95 goals.
Wow.
There's probably a reason why that's not offered on my betting apps for over 2.5 goals for their games, and other League Two games are.
They have a goal differential of -88.
that's crazy.
Like, what's the worst part is they're not even like the worst League Two team that I've seen go through. Blue Goose last year was even worse. But like, at every single match that I go through, they score. I think they conceded against FC Tucson yesterday or a couple weeks ago. Or no, not a couple weeks ago, a couple days ago. Yes, that FC Tucson, former professional team. They gave up, if I remember right, it was 13 goals in the span of 20 minutes.
Hang up the boots, fellas. Foreclose that stadium. It's over.
Hey, I mean, if we can get that goals against average below 10 a game, We might be onto something. Like, might be cooking.
What would Auckland City do to this team?
And I don't want to, like, I'm just throwing this out there, right? It was mentioned, I think, in our Super League watch along of the USL show goes to TST. If we made a 5-a-side to go against Coachella, like, we still definitely lose, right? Like, we absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, we get slated.
Yes,
Yep.
to answer Michael's question, no.
All right.
Maybe if we got Amen, if we get Amen on our team, then we've got a shot. He might single-handedly defeat Coachella.
God bless.
We could see what the Pale 5 can do in action.
I would just say, they're kids. Let them play, get their minutes in. They're having. I'm sure they're having fun. They're getting their summer minutes in. So I can't really I kind of feel bad making fun of them, even if it is a funny thing to say, but
that is just I saw it today because I knew they weren't good, but when I saw -88, I about fell out of my chair. That one just caught me so off guard. Okay. How about some predictions? Unless anybody else say anything else for final open floor. So let's go ahead, start with the championship. Phil, let the hate flow through you because it's Monterey Bay versus El Paso. I'm just gonna let you cook real fast.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go kind of quick. The reality I said last week I was worried about Locomotive, and then they go out and get stomped by Orange County 3-0. The reality of this game is that if anybody in blue had their shooting boots on Saturday night, this game is over early on. Locomotive dominated and they had 9 shots in the first half, 0 on target, 0 out of 9, and they create over 1 XG, score 0, and concede 3 to half an XG. This is just the reality here is that it felt very akin to some of the losses that they suffered under Hutchinson and Brian Clairhout, in that they look good. Offensively, they did all the sort of right stuff, didn't really score goals though, and conceded sort of comically soft goals. And we talked about how worried, or how weird, I guess, Gabby Torres, Ricky Ruiz, that combination can be on the left-hand side. And OC ate Ricky Ruiz up in the first half. It was it just didn't go well. He was a lot worse than he typically is. They played through very easily. And yeah, some of the stuff just, it almost felt like in that span of however many minutes they scored the 3 goals, it was in the blink of an eye practically. It felt like some of these losses, like I said, under these old coaches, where sort of the first goal goes in and you wonder just how bad it's going to get, versus okay, we've conceded. I think what we've seen mentally from this team this year is they concede, it's not the end of the world. They kind of bounce back, all that sort of stuff. The one goal led to another, and it just it just did not go well. The reason that I brought up teams who start quick and fade in June, July is because this season is reminding me of the 2023 Locomotive season. And in fact, 2023 Locomotive had 9 wins at this point of the season. June 14th, as of June 14th, which was the day that they played Orange County, June 14th, 2023, that team had 9 wins, and they went on to win just 4 of the next 20.
Phil, if I'm remembering correctly,
yeah.
I want to check really fast because I do think I remember the last match that was won during that. Oh no, just kidding. It was close. You beat New Mexico right afterward.
Yes.
I was going to say, like, one of the last matches you won is the reason why I have a vendetta against El Paso from now on. Of them.
No, we still snuck in a Derby win there, but it was so 2023. They had 9 wins. They went on to lose 11 of the next 19, like through July through the end of October. Right now they have 5 wins, 5 draws, and over the last couple of games they've looked pretty rough against like bad Western Conference teams. Sorry. OC is not as bad as they probably are, like in terms of their record. And I talked about this on Orange and Black Soccer Cast. Andy was there. He knows. But I do think that in general, the regression in finishing, the lack, like all it takes right now is Andy Cabrera not scoring to not score. And that as a team. And that is like deeply troubling. To be reliant in that way. It never felt hugely sustainable, and unfortunately, like the chickens are kind of coming home to roost. And I think they got to figure something out with that left-hand side because the Gabby Torres, Ricky Ruiz thing like just doesn't work. So Monterey Bay by 1 million. No, I'm just kidding. I said a draw, I think, in this one.
So all that said, Phil, with all the things that are going wrong, the obvious question is how can we logically blame Seriously Loco for this?
I mean, we typically try to tear the team down as much as possible. So, so mission accomplished.
Who's the real winner here? Seriously Loco. Like and subscribe.
But yeah, so a rough one on Saturday, and unfortunately something that felt like it was coming just with the lack of goal scoring, and for whatever reason mentally they felt a little bit weaker than they typically have this year.
Ryan, what say you?
I've picked a draw in this one as well, and just one stat that kind of stuck out to me right now with the kind of run that El Paso is on is they've gone nearly 5 hours since the last time they scored a goal. You could watch 2001: A Space Odyssey twice in that time. I do think they score against Orange County, or not Orange County, against Monterey Bay this weekend, but I'm going to pick a draw.
John?
Yeah, going with Monterey in this one. I think the way that they attack and they can exploit a narrow defense is going to come up big. They need to be solid in transitional moments to stop what El Paso does best, but I think they pull it off. So, Monterey.
Alex?
I'm going to go with El Paso bouncing back this week.
I am going couldn't keep it together. Phil, I have faith because I have faith in Andy Cabrera. I think he's going to score. I do think Monterey Bay is still solid defensively. I do think that Nico Gordon is just that guy in general, but I'm going to go with El Paso, partially because I think they'll win, partially because I just want to see you be happy. So, El Paso. And let's go out to League One. No more Super League picks. I'm a little sad, by the way. We're not talking Super League anymore, and that makes me a little sad. I'm counting down the days to August. But why don't we talk about Madison Westchester, a team who can't score versus a team who can't stop teams from scoring? Something has to budge. Phil, what do you think?
I picked Madison in this one. I don't know. There's something about the way that they've been playing that it makes it feel like a little bit of I don't know, like the goals are trapped behind a dam or something like that, and the dam is about to burst for Madison. It just feels like if there's anyone to bounce back against, it feels like it's Westchester at the moment. So I'm taking the Birds.
Ryan.
I mean, this is a Westchester team who, for the 7th consecutive game, has scored first and then failed to win. Arguably against AV Alta was the most egregious to concede 5 goals after going up 2-0. I mean, I will say, at least from my perspective, it's been pretty automatic that the second Westchester scores, I just bet the double chance result on their opponent, and it's been pretty fruitful wagers. But I've picked a draw for this one and have this be Madison's 8th draw on the season.
John.
Madison, like until Westchester proves otherwise, I straight up cannot trust anything about that defense. I think they're getting the setup wrong week in and week out. So Madison gets right in this one.
Alex.
I'm going to do what I usually never do, and I'm going to say draw. I don't think this is where either side breaks through. I think we're going to look at like a 2-2 or a 3-3 draw.
I hear that, but I also don't trust Madison to score. I just don't at all. And I know if there's a team you're going to do it against, it's Westchester. I do trust Westchester to score. I think the likely answer here is probably 1-1, just like every other Ford Madison result ever known to man. But if in all reality, if Westchester gets 2, do we really trust Ford Madison to get 3? I don't know if I do. I'm taking Westchester. So, with that said, any final USL thoughts for us? I have one really fast. Mark Briggs taking on his former club tomorrow in Sacramento, which should be interesting. He did the whole thing of like, I love them, but I want to beat them. We talked to the players today, and they're like, yeah, we want to win for Briggs. Like, there was no, like, we need to win because we haven't been winning. It was like, we're winning for Mark. And I was like, oh, okay, that's fun. That's an interesting little wrinkle. So check that match out tomorrow. I think that you're going to be seeing some energy from Legion for once, maybe. It might only last for 30 minutes, but it's something, and I'll take that. I just want a little bit of happiness going on here. So there's that.
Fascinating one to watch strategically. And if you're looking for an intro into Birmingham, maybe dabbling with the back five, go check out Kaler's latest Found Hammering Down, which I thought was a great kind of breakdown of the approach.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Also, that whole like film breakdown just reinforces like Lou City is so good.
Mm-hmm.
I know that shouldn't be like a mind-blowing moment, but they're kind of New Mexicoing me a little bit of like, they seem to like lull me a little bit of like, they don't do the flashy, really crazy stuff that often. Although I sent this email to Nicholas Murray, so he knows this. Taylor Davila was my actual player of the week. I just want that to be known. The ball he made to Goodrum to get the second goal was disgusting, and we're just used to Davila doing stuff like that we don't even look at anymore. But any other player in the league, we're gushing, but Taylor Davila just does that, and we just don't care. He's so good.
Once a week, man, Davila just does something that makes your jaw drop.
So
they're unbeaten through their first 13 league games. Their next 4 games in the league is North Carolina, Loudoun away, Colorado Springs away, and Tulsa at home. Do they remain unbeaten through those 4?
I didn't even hear the list of teams because I like dissociated, but yes, they're not going to lose. It doesn't matter who they're playing.
North Carolina, Loudoun, both away from home, and then Colorado Springs away from home, and Tulsa at home.
Yeah, win, baby.
I'm a little hesitant, shockingly, over Tulsa. Read John's back 4 article, but like
the Luke Spencer revenge game.
True. Hey. Anyway,
what's going to end up happening for Louisville is they're going to go like unbeaten through the league all the way up to the final week of the year, and then somehow Hartford's going to win on the final match day.
And somehow, for some reason, the Hartford supporter section is also silent during then too. Protest number 2, baby. So, how about some final thoughts for the night? Just kind of wrap us up. Alex, let's start with you.
Yeah, I had a nice Father's Day weekend. My kid took me to see Final Destination Bloodlines, which I thought we both enjoyed it thoroughly. I thought it was the best one out of the series since the first one.
I can't make myself watch any of them. I just cannot do it.
I'm to the point where I don't really like gory movies anymore, but the Final Destination ones, they're just they're so creative the way they make people die. You just I found myself laughing at a few of them just because they were so well done.
John, how about you?
Yeah, I've been like deep in the rabbit hole of reading too much political current event news lately, so I've kind of been in that funk. Okay, I'm gonna see 28 Years Later, the sequel to the handful of zombie movies this weekend. So keeping it up with the horror vibe here.
All right.
I was trying to explain that to my kid while we saw the preview. She was like, "What is this?" I was like, there was 28 days later and 28 weeks later, and now 28 years later.
28
there's zombie
Days Later,
movies.
the OG is so good,
It
man.
is.
One of my all-time favorites.
28 decades later is going to hit like crazy. Ryan?
Yeah, I'll admit that I'm a little late to the game on this, but I've been binge watching a lot of the series 19 of Taskmaster on YouTube. It's just been a lot of fun to go see through and watch. And Jason Mantzoukas remains to be a really funny person.
Man.
Bill?
Yeah, I was with family in town. I was not admittedly watching as much stuff aside from sports this past weekend. But if I can make a TV recommendation, I'm definitely late to the game on this. But the TV show Hacks,
So good, man.
unbelievable. Gene Smart and Hannah Einbinder. It is hysterical. I cannot recommend it enough. The pilot, there are 4 seasons of this TV show, and the pilot of the show, my sisters had heavily recommended that I watch it. I watched the pilot. I laughed out loud by myself in my living room 4 times in the pilot. Like, and that wasn't counting all of my laughs. That's just the times that I actually laughed out loud alone. So, like, it is really, it's an unbelievable TV show. Just a very funny approach to basically a couple of writers in Hollywood, like a comedian and a writer in Hollywood, and it's a very funny just a very, very funny thing.
It's one of those shows where it draws you in with the comedy, and then by the time you get to season 4, like, you're going to be crying.
Yeah.
So I couldn't recommend it more.
Speaking of crying, finale of Top Chef hit like an absolute brick. It was exactly the outcome I was hoping for.
Justice was served.
Justice was served, exactly. But it was, oh my God, like
Masterclass.
Amazing. Great season, and also can't recommend enough. If you're not on Top Chef, like, you're really missing out.
For me, this is I have been super into like watching golf for like the last year, and I have not had as much fun watching golf as I did with the US Open this year. Just seeing people look like almost like what I do, granted on a significantly easier course. It's just like, wow, they are human. And like JJ Spawn, like with the 65-foot putt to drain it, there was the alternate angle that you actually see how hard it was, because like the TV angle makes it look like a flat putt. It was not. It was so good. I was pretty locked in on the tournament, which I usually wait till Saturday, Sunday to get invested. I was locked in from the very beginning, and it's definitely been because like over the summer I don't teach, so like what's on midday on Thursdays and Fridays, baseball and golf. So like, I got nothing else to do, and I've been super locked in with it. So it's been fun. It's a nice supplement to my normal man's greatest drama hit reality TV show, which is F1. So it's a nice supplement for that.
I will say the most father thing happened on Father's Day when my wife asked her dad, who was in town, like, what do you want to do for Father's Day? And he was like, listen, I just want to sit on the couch and watch golf. And it was like, okay, cool. We just like left him alone. He was in the back room watching golf, just living his best life. It was he had his feet up. He's like half asleep on the couch, just loving it. I was like, this is the most dad thing that's ever occurred in history of, I just want to watch the golf.
I saw a post that was like, because there was the big, once again, like rain thunderstorm delay that happened in the middle of it. and they were just showing reruns of things, and they were like dads waking up from their Father's Day nap, seeing Tiger Woods win the 2008 Open Cup, like. So, all right. Well, anything else from you guys? Let's see. Kit Season had a fun interview with like the co-founder, co-owner of AFC Ann Arbor. So that was a fun listen. So go check that out. Lots of good content coming out with like obviously Phil Seriously Loco that drops tomorrow.
Yeah, we're gonna record tomorrow, so probably like Thursday morning or whatever.
John always has something coming out. I never actually know how to pronounce it. Is it PHNX or is it just Phoenix? How do you?
It's pronounced PHNX. Yeah, where I guest hosted last week, and that was a fun time.
That was awesome. Like, check that out.
Alex I always thought of it as Funks.
Alex always has good stuff coming out. Reading anything that comes through there, both with that and the Southeast Soccer Report. And Ryan's odds articles are must read. Even if you're not a gambler, there's like not gambling stuff. There's non-gambling stuff in there. So like check that out daily.
Really, they're just like, here's a really fun stat about every single team, and then like I'm picking Scottish Championship games at the end too. That's the special with Ryan.
They are great reads. So like even if you're not a gambler, like most of it's non-gambling, so you will enjoy it. I promise.
The best part of your Friday.
Yes. So thank you all so much for listening. We appreciate you so much. And for the first and final time tonight, here's Alan's voice.
Thank you for watching another episode of the USL Show.
The USL Show is now proudly part of the Protagonist podcast family. Please go to protagonistsoccer.com to check out more work. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see everyone again next time.